Hey everyone, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a really fun video because I'm going to be showing you guys some super easy kitchen DIYs, and some of this stuff is going to be very practical stuff for your kitchen. Some is going to be just decor that you can honestly use in other rooms of your home, so it's going to be very versatile. I tried to keep everything very budget friendly and very simple so that it should be easy and fun to follow along. This video is sponsored by Cricut, which I'm also very excited about because I have had my Cricut machine for about 3 years now and I absolutely love it. It's just such a great tool for amplifying your DIYs. I personally am so excited to show you guys some of the crafts that I came up with using it, but that will be later in the video. Our first couple of crafts are going to be without using our Cricut, and then we'll kind of get into all the fun stuff you can make using one. So if you guys are ready, let's get into the video. Okay, so our first DIY is going to be this handmade hot pad, and I use hot pads all the time because we have quartz countertops in our home which are a bit more sensitive to heat than other surfaces that you can get like granite. So I constantly have them out, so when I take things out of the oven I can just put them on the hot pad and it protects the surface. So they're always hanging around on our hardware pulls, which means they're basically on display. So I just hang them like right here, and I want to make sure that they match like the vibe and look of our kitchen and that they, you know, don't look tacky or anything like that. So the handmade look is very trendy right now. I actually got the inspiration for this from one of my favorite interior designers online boutique, and I ended up making it out of Walmart's scrap fabric. So you can make like 2 of these for $4, so $2 each, and I'm excited to show you guys how I made it.
Alright, so like I said, we're just going to start out in the Walmart scrap fabric section, and this is a great way to get fabric for really cheap. So I tend to try to look for solid fabrics, for more neutral colors. I think that just looks better personally and it matches my home and decor better, but you guys can pick whatever matches your place. These were the ones I chose, and I also feel it's very important to try to get stretchy t-shirt-like material so that it doesn't fray when you cut it, because we will be doing a lot of cutting to this piece. So I just eyeballed about 6 to 8 inches here. It doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to be, you know, a super stickler about the measurements, but I just cut all the way down. I believe this was 4 yards of fabric, so it took me a while to get to the end, but once you get to the end, you don't want to cut all the way through. So you want to stop, and then I kind of cut a curve around the edge, and this is what's really going to create our fabric yarn. So cutting the edge ensures that you don't have a lot of extra fabric kind of like bulking the edges down, if that makes sense. So I just repeated this process all the way down through the rest of the fabric, and then I ended up with a bunch of yarn. So we're just going to roll that in a ball so it's easier to work with and doesn't get tangled. I originally filmed the knitting process kind of in depth, but then I realized I didn't want to bore you guys with a super long knitting tutorial in this craft video, so I will link some knitting resources down below if you guys don't know how to knit. It's super straightforward and very easy to learn. So I just knitted this guy. I did 8 by 10 rows and I used size 19 knitting needles. So once I got to the end, I just tied 2 really tight knots, and then I cut off the excess, which just kind of finishes off that side. And then the other side is going to be the one that I will hang on all of my kitchen hardware. So I did a little bit of a looser knot there so it was able to hang it, cut off the excess, and that's really about it. I kind of gave it a little bit of a tug and loosened everything because some stitches tend to be tighter than others, so it just makes it look a little bit more uniform. Gave some of the fabric yarn little tucks, and that's it, you guys. I love how these came out. I think they look super artesian and handmade and just really, really beautiful, casual, and just a great accent to your kitchen to add some softness in there. These would make great gifts. I personally think that they are so easy to make, so I hope you guys give this one a try.
Okay, so our next DIY is going to be just kind of a fun decor item. As you can see over here, I have this tray that kind of is a catch-all for some, you know, practical things that I use in my kitchen, and I just wanted to add a little bit of something extra. So I have had this idea in my head for a while of these decorative beads, but I figured that this was kind of a good excuse to make it, to see how it would look there. I don't know if it'd like look too crowded or anything, but I figured if it does, I can always use this in other rooms of my home. So this guy was actually really simple, and these guys can run like $40 to $50 on online boutiques as well. So the fact that we can make this out of air dry clay and just some cheap leather cording from Michael's is awesome. So I'm excited to show you guys how I made it.
Okay, so first I just started by having a huge chunk of air dry clay, and I like to use air dry clay in this project because I didn't want to have to deal with baking or anything like that, but I just rolled a ball, flattened it a little bit, and then I actually used a meat thermometer for the hole. You could use whatever you have on hand, a pencil, a skewer, some toothpicks. If it's not a super wide object, you can just like kind of work it in circular motions so the hole gets a little bigger. But after I did that, then I just kind of flattened it down, made sure it didn't have any rough edges, and just repeated this process. And I believe I made about 40 beads or so. So just keep in mind that these do not have to be all matching in size and shape. If they're a little bit different, that's okay. We're going for that like organic handmade look. So, it'll give your piece a bit more visual interest if they're not all the same. But I let them dry for about 2 days, and then I took these watercolor pens and I wanted to make a pretty like brown neutral stripe, but they dried blue, unfortunately. I don't think the clay held the color very well. So I just went back with a Sharpie and went over that just to make it a black line because I'm a neutral loving girl. So I just wanted them, to be black or brown or gray or whatever. So I went through and I relined all of those, and then I gave them a coat of Krylon clear glaze, which this is going to give it more of a ceramic bead look. So, I just went through, I sprayed them all, and I flipped them all over once the first coat had dried, and then I got the other side, making sure to get the sides of them because that's what's going to show. But we want to then take some leather cording. I just got this at Michael's, and I tied a knot, and then I started stringing all of my beads on there. I decided I wanted to tie a knot in between every bead because I felt like it gives it a bit more visual interest. It allows that leather accent to show through, which I think is really pretty. So just gives it a little bit more texture, and this is what it looks like once everything is tied on there and how the spacing looks. So I decided I wanted to do some tassel-like ends, but I didn't have a ton of leather left, so I just took 2 strands and I tied a knot right on the end there. I tied it pretty taut, and then I looped it around one more time just to give it like a finished chunky knot on the end, and I think that big knot just gives it some visual interest and makes it look very finished. So that's kind of what it looks like, which I think we did a good job for not having a ton of leather left. And this is the finished product, you guys. I think it came out really cute. I love that it's super versatile and you don't have to just use it in your kitchen. It can dress up a stack of books on a console table or a nightstand and just look really pretty for some simple air dry clay, Sharpie, and leather cording.
Okay, so like I said before, this video is sponsored by Cricut, so I wanted to show you guys mine and how easy it is to work with and all the fun stuff you can make using one. So for those of you who don't know, Cricut is actually a cutting machine. So it can cut a myriad of different materials. It can cut vinyl, it can cut paper, cardstock, cardboard, fabric, burlap, iron-on. The possibilities are seriously endless. So I have had my Cricut machine for about 3 years now, and I originally got mine because I was getting married and I didn't have a large budget and I wanted to kind of create a lot of my decor using it. And I love how all of them turned out. I used it to make our welcome sign. I used it to make our seating signs, just lots of like really cute touches that went into the day. And I think that it just really added like that personal touch. And it was fun that I was able to make them. So that's kind of where I got started, was my wedding. I made some really cool memento wine glasses that Mike and I can always have with our wedding date on them. There's just so much you can do. So that was kind of like my gateway into the Cricut machine, was my wedding. And then now I really use it a lot more for DIY crafts around the house, some of which I'm going to show you guys today, and a lot of gifts. Like, this is such a great gift giving machine. Like, you can make really easy, cheap, and thoughtful gifts. So there's really so much you can do with this thing, and I'm excited to show you guys kind of how I use it. So this specific little guy is the Cricut Joy, and this is a new addition to my Cricut collection, and I have to say I'm obsessed with this one. It just makes everything so quick and easy. You can make a project from when you start the project to the end of the project in 15 minutes or less, which for me, I work 2 jobs. I'm a very busy person, and that just makes this a lot more fun when you know it's not going to be just a huge time consuming project. I personally love the size of this thing. Look how tiny and cute it is. The fact that I can just put it in its little carrier and take it with me wherever is amazing, especially since I'm always on the go. I can put it in here and take it with me on one of my trips, which is really cool because sometimes I have long layovers in hotels and it's just really boring. So the fact that I can craft on the go is awesome. You could take this to a friend's house. You could, if you were doing like, you know, a bridal shower or bridal party in a different state, it's very easy to travel with. It's super easy to set up at your friend's house because it's all Bluetooth enabled. So you can create from Cricut Design Space either on your laptop or on your mobile device. So you don't even need like a computer or desktop. All you need is this in your phone and your materials. So a really cool thing about this Cricut Joy is that when you use smart Cricut materials, you don't need a mat. It's very easy to set up, it's very easy to use, and I personally am having like the best time with this thing. So I'm really excited to show you guys all the fun projects that I've made using it. And I'm gonna kind of just show you a very simple, basic cut so you guys can kind of see how easy it truly is. So I have these like canisters that I'm meaning to put my flour, sugar, and like baking, you know, materials in. So I kind of just want to label those and show you guys how to actually use this and how easy it is. So I'm just going to run you guys through that, and then we can get into some fun other crafts that you can make using these that are really fun gifts and just really cute, personalized, fun pieces.
Okay, so I'm just going to open Cricut Design Space on my laptop, type in the word that I want to cut out and resize it, choose a font I like, and we're going to be working with Cricut Smart Vinyl today. So this is really fun because you don't need a mat, so I just select the without mat option and let the Cricut do its thing. Here then I'm going to remove the excess vinyl and just use my transfer paper to get the word onto the paper only, and then we're just going to apply it to whatever surface we want, which in this case is our little canister. And right here, you guys, this is the most satisfying part, peeling off that transfer paper. Oh, but that's really how simple it is to personalize whatever you want using your Cricut machine.
Okay, so our next DIY is going to be these really pretty state cocktail glasses. So it's just the silhouette of a state etched on the cocktail glass. So it's really fun because if you have people over or whatever, it's a way to know which cocktail glass is theirs. And we did every state that Mike and I have lived in on our set. So if you or whoever you're making these for hasn't lived in a bunch of states, you could always do your bucket list states, you could do bucket list countries. I actually made an old car vinyl set for my father-in-law recently because he likes cars. I've done Disney princesses. So you can really get creative with this and, you know, personalize it to you or whoever you're making this for. So when you're watching this, just keep that in mind, but I'm gonna show you guys how I made them.
Okay, so to start, you just kind of want to make sure that you use a straight rimmed glass versus something that's curved or bowed, because that will just make it easier on you. But we're going to cut out our state shapes like I showed you guys in the last project. Super simple and easy process. And then I'm just going to peel out the states because these are going to be acting as a stencil. So I just kind of cut around the states so it was easy to apply to our glass. And it's going to be kind of hard to get it without any bubbles or anything, so don't worry about that too much. You just want to make sure once it's on there that you press all of the bubbles around the state's outline in so that there aren't really any around the immediate shape, if that makes sense. So that way it doesn't bleed or leak. I also think it's very important to use Armor Etch because I've used several different etching creams and this one works the absolute best. So I just paint in different directions. You want to do multiple coats. So, you know, you could do one forward, one diagonal, one sideways, stuff like that. And then I let this dry for about a day and I run it under some hot water so the vinyl is easy to just remove in one foul swoop, pull that off of there, and then I just scrub off the rest of the etching cream. So this is really nice because it makes it dishwasher safe. You don't really have to worry. You can be a little bit more like rough with your glasses. So this is kind of what it looks like at the end. And I feel like this turned out so cute. Such a pretty, subtle, simple way to personalize your glasses.
Okay, so this next DIY I've actually mentioned on my channel before, and I've kind of switched the use for them, and I've never done an in-depth tutorial on how to make them, and I figured since I was showcasing some Cricut projects that this would be perfect to kind of show you guys an in-depth DIY of how I made them. So this is yet another DIY that's just very versatile. You can use it in lots of different rooms. So I had them in my living room for a little while, but here I wanted to use them in my kitchen because we get a meal delivery service, and it comes with recipe cards that we frequently kind of go back to. We'll make the recipes on our own without the delivery service. So I kind of wanted a fun place to store them. We make one almost every night. So I wanted to have them like on hand instead of just kind of sitting in a shelf. So I figured that these were a great place to store them. And I think that they kind of are a great little just like end to the wall in that corner, and they look really pretty. So I'm going to show you guys how I made them.
Okay, so we're first going to start with these faux storage books that I got at TJ Maxx and Marshall's. Ross has these. Tuesday Morning usually has a lot of these, and they are very affordable. They're like anywhere from $5 to $10 each. So I just want to make them a bit more neutral to match my home. So I first started by taping off the binding because we still want our book kind of pages to be the same color. But I ended up going with a white and then kind of a taupey gray color. So there was contrast between the two books when I put them together as a set. So I love that gray color. I will link it below. But then I just printed out my word using my Cricut, weeded out the excess vinyl, and stuck it on there with my transfer paper. I think this is such an easy way to elevate the look of these books. I personally decided to go with bucket list countries for the binding of my books, but you could really use anything that resonates with you. It's fun to kind of get creative. But how pretty did these turn out? I just think there's such a great, simple way to store stuff away that you don't want to see, but be a decor piece at the same time.
So that really wraps up this video, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed and it sparked some kind of creativity for your next DIY project. I want to thank Cricut again for partnering with me on this video. I had a lot of fun making it, and I want to thank you all for your kind comments and support. That always really means a lot to me, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye!